Dad's silent revenge.
After my construction accident, my son's wife coldly declared right from my hospital bed, "We can't take care of you. Our Hawaii vacation is more important." I just smiled, hired professional care, and that same day stopped the $6,000 monthly payments they'd been receiving for years. A few hours later, my phone exploded with 87 missed calls. They had no idea the real consequences were just beginning. My name is Henry Lawson. I'm 67 years old, living in Phoenix, Arizona, built my construction company from nothing over 35 years, sold it 3 years ago for $1.8 million. Now I restore classic pickup trucks in my garage and thought I knew what family loyalty meant. Turns out I was dead wrong about that. The accident happened on a Tuesday morning in March. I was driving to the hardware store, thinking about the carburetor work waiting on my 1969 Chevy. Light was green when I entered the intersection at 32nd Street and McDowell. Saw the other truck too late, drunk driver running red at 45 miles per hour. My pickup spun twice before slamming into a telephone pole with a sound like thunder. I woke up in Phoenix General with pain shooting through my entire right side. 3 broken ribs, concussion, severely damaged left leg. Doctor said I was lucky to be alive. Didn't feel lucky lying there with every breath feeling like knives in my chest. Machines beeping around me like some kind of torture device. I called Victor, my son, from the hospital bed, hands shaking as I dialed his number. Voice barely above a whisper because talking hurt like hell. "Dad, what's up?" he answered, sounding distracted. I could hear gym music in the background. "I've been in an accident, son. I'm at Phoenix General. Pretty banged up. Can you come?" "Oh man, that's rough. I'm at the gym right now with Brenda. Can we swing by in a couple hours?" Couple hours. His father lying in a hospital bed with broken bones, and he needed to finish his workout first. 4 hours later, Victor finally showed up with his wife, Brenda. She looked perfect as always, blonde hair styled just so designer workout clothes that probably cost more than most people make in a week. They walked in like they were visiting a neighbor with a cold, not a family member who'd nearly died. Victor stood at the foot of my bed, hands in pockets, looking uncomfortable. Brenda stayed near the door, checking her phone every 30 seconds like she was expecting something more important than this. "How you feeling, Dad?" Victor asked, the question automatic and empty, like I got hit by a truck. I said, "Because I did get hit by a truck." Brenda looked up from her phone, irritation crossing her face. "Well, the important thing is you're okay. They're taking good care of you here." "Doctor says he'll need help for a few weeks," I told them, watching their faces carefully. "Recovery, physical therapy, getting around the house. Can't drive, can't lift anything heavy." That's when Brenda cut me off, voice sharp and cold as a winter morning. "We can't take care of you, Henry. We're leaving for Hawaii next week. Everything's already paid for, the resort, the excursions, all of it." "We've been planning this for months." I stared at her. My mouth went dry. I was just in a car accident. "We understand that," she said, crossing her arms like she was explaining something to a slow child. "But our vacation can't be canceled. You'll be fine here. They have nurses, professionals. That's what hospitals are for." I looked at Victor, waiting for him to say something. Anything tell his wife that his injured father took priority over drinks with little umbrellas. He met my eyes for half a second, then looked away like a coward. "Brenda's right, Dad. We can't cancel now, but you're in good hands here." The room felt colder despite the Arizona sun streaming through the window. I looked at these two people and saw them clearly for the first time. Not family. Not the people Ed supported and believed in for years, just two strangers who saw me as nothing more than a monthly deposit, an ATM with a pulse. Brenda was already heading for the door, her designer shoes clicking on the linoleum. "We should go. Still need to pack. Feel better, Henry." Victor hesitated at the doorway, guilt flickering across his face for maybe 2 seconds. Then he followed his wife out, leaving me alone with the steady beep of monitors and the hollow ache of betrayal settling somewhere deeper than my broken ribs. Let me tell you about the money I'd been sending them, $6,000 every month for 3 years. Started after I gave Victor the house $680,000 worth of real estate in the Arcadia neighborhood. Just handed it over when he got married. Told myself I was helping my son get established, giving him the foundation I never had at his age. Then came the monthly help when they said they were struggling with expenses. House payments, they called it, though there was no mortgage. What they meant was utilities, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, the cost of living in a house they'd done nothing to earn. Brenda had quit her job at the real estate office 2 months after the money started flowing. Why work when father-in-law was covering everything? She joined expensive yoga studios, got weekly spa treatments, filled the house with furniture that cost more than my first truck. Through my granddaughter Carol, I heard about their lifestyle. The expensive vacations to Cabo and Aspen, the new SUV Id helped them buy, the designer handbags Brenda collected like trophies. Carol would come over every week, help me work on the pickup, tell me stories about school, sweet kid, 12 years old, smart as a whip. She'd hand me tools and ask questions about engine work, reminding me of her dad at that age. Through her innocent chatter, I learned about the designer shopping trips, the expensive dinners, the spa days that had become Brenda's weekly routine. Grandpa, Mom bought another purse yesterday, Carol mentioned one afternoon while we worked on the transmission. Dad asked why she needed another one, and she said it was an investment. What's an investment purse? I kept my voice neutral. Something that costs too much money, sweetheart. Lying in that hospital bed after they left, something shifted inside me. Something cold and clear and absolutely certain. ED spent 3 years financing their lifestyle, believing that family meant sacrifice and loyalty. They'd just shown me exactly what our relationship was worth to them, less than a vacation. I called a home care agency from my hospital bed, arranged for a professional caregiver to help with my recovery. Gloria Martinez, 58 years old, experienced with post-accident care. Her resume showed 15 years of helping people recover from injuries just like mine. "I'll be there when you need me, Mr. Lawson," she said over the phone. Her voice was warm but professional. It cost me $300 a month, but she'd actually show up when I needed help. What a concept. Then I made the call that would change everything to my bank. Canceled the automatic transfer that sent $6,000 to Victor every month, blocked any future transactions to his account. Took less than 5 minutes to undo 3 years of enabling, 3 years of being treated like a walking wallet. My phone started ringing before Eid even hung up with the bank. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Declined text messages flooded in like a dam had burst. "Dad, there's a problem with the transfer. The money didn't come through." "This isn't funny. We have bills. Call me back now." I turned off notifications and set the phone face down on the hospital tray. Let them panic. Let them feel what it's like when someone you count on suddenly isn't there. For 3 years, they'd counted on me like gravity, always there, never questioned, completely taken for granted. Gloria picked me up when I was discharged 3 days later, professional, efficient, kind, without being overly familiar. She helped me into her sedan with practiced ease, adjusted my seat for comfort. As we drove through Phoenix traffic toward my apartment, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the satisfaction of finally standing up for myself. "You seem calm for someone who just spent 3 days in the hospital," Gloria observed. "I've made some important decisions," I told her. "Feels good to take control again." Over the next few days, I watched their situation unravel from my living room recliner. Victor sent desperate emails, 6 paragraphs of apologies and excuses. Sorry about the Hawaii comment. Brenda had meant it the way it sounded. They were under stress. Could we talk about the money situation? They had expenses, responsibilities, a daughter to think about. I read each one carefully, then deleted it without responding. Each email got more desperate, more revealing. By the 4th one, Victor was admitting they'd borrowed money from friends to cover April's bills. By the 6th, he was begging. Brenda tried a different approach, called from unknown numbers, probably thinking I'd answer if I didn't recognize the caller ID. When I accidentally answered one, her voice cracked with relief. "Henry, thank goodness. There's been some mistake with the bank transfer. It didn't go through this month. Can you call them?" And I hung up, blocked that number too. She tried again from a different number an hour later. Same script, same desperation underneath the fake sweetness. I started a little collection of blocked numbers. It was fascinating, really, watching them scramble. For 3 years, they'd treated me like a reliable ATM, insert politeness, receive money. Now that the machine was broken, they were like fish flopping on dry land, completely unprepared for the reality of supporting themselves. 2 weeks into my recovery, Carol called. Her voice was small and worried. "Grandpa, are you okay? Mom said you were hurt bad." "I'm fine, sweetheart. Healing up nicely." "Gloria's taking good care of me." "Who's Gloria?" "A nice lady who helps me with things while I get better." "Can I come visit? I miss working on the truck." "Soon, honey." "Let me check with Gloria about when that works best." There was a pause. Then Carol's voice got even smaller. "Grandpa, Mom, and Dad have been fighting a lot about money. Mom keeps saying it's your fault, but Dad said something different yesterday. He said maybe they took advantage of you. What does that mean, smart kid?" "Too smart for her own good sometimes." "That's between your parents and me, Carol. Nothing for you to worry about. Mom got really mad yesterday. She threw her phone and it broke. Dad had to tape it back together." "Is she mad at you?" "No, just yelling a lot about bills and stuff." "She said you abandoned us, but you were hurt." "That's not abandoning, right?" My chest tightened, and not from the broken ribs. No, sweetheart. That's not abandoning. Sometimes adults have to make hard decisions to protect themselves. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment thinking about that conversation. Brenda was already poisoning Carol against me, twisting the situation to make herself the victim. That woman had no shame, dragging a 12-year-old into her financial problems. 3 weeks later, they defaulted on property taxes, $688 due unpaid. The county sent notices to my address since I was still listed as the emergency contact from when ID helped them set up the paperwork years ago. I called my lawyer, Stanley Reed, to discuss what this meant. They're drowning Henry. Stanley told me from his downtown office. My sources say they've maxed out credit cards, borrowed money from friends, even took a loan against Victor's $401k. Total debt approaching $30,000 now. Good, I said. Let them drown. I'm not throwing any more life preservers. Stanley chuckled. You know, in 30 years of family law, I've seen a lot of financial manipulation. But refusing to help an injured parent for a vacation, that's a new low. Even for me, that's when Brenda made her biggest mistake. She filed papers with the court claiming I was mentally incompetent due to my concussion. Submitted a psychological evaluation from Dr. Beverly Thompson claiming I showed signs of confusion, memory loss, and poor judgment. Said I needed a guardian to manage my affairs, namely her and Victor. Problem was, I'd never met Dr. Beverly Thompson in my life. Stanley was furious when he called me. This is fraud, Henry, medical malpractice. They've submitted a fake evaluation from a doctor who never examined you. We're going to destroy them in court. I started documenting everything. Saved every text message, every voicemail, every email. Started carrying my phone with me constantly, recording our conversations whenever they called. Arizona's a one-party consent state, so everything was legal. The breakthrough came when Brenda called me drunk one night at 2 a.m. You think you're so smart, she slurred into the phone. Cutting off our money like that. But we're gonna get it all back, plus more. Victor's too weak to fight you, but I'm not. That house should have been mine anyway. You owe us for all the years Victor took care of you, took care of me. The man who couldn't spare 4 hours when I was in the hospital. And when we get guardianship, she continued, we're putting you in one of those homes. Sell your apartment, liquidate everything. You won't need money where you're going. I kept her talking for 20 minutes, recording every word. She laid out their entire plan, how they'd convinced some doctor friend of hers to write the evaluation, how they'd present it to the court, how they'd take control of my finances for my own good. The hearing was scheduled for July 15th. I spent the weeks before getting legitimate medical evaluations, neurologist, psychiatrist, primary care doctor. All confirmed I was perfectly sharp, fully capable of managing my affairs. The neurologist even laughed when I told him why I needed the tests. Mr. Lawson, you scored better on cognitive function than most 50-year-olds. Your concussion healed completely weeks ago. Hoover's claiming you're incompetent is either lying or delusional. Meanwhile, I'd been gathering character witnesses. My neighbor Pete Kowalski had watched Brenda's behavior for months. Mrs. Chen from down the hall had heard her screaming at Victor on the phone about money. Even Carol had inadvertently provided evidence Shed mentioned to Gloria that her mom talked about Grandpa's money all the time. The night before court, Victor called one last time. His voice was shaky, desperate. Dad, please, can we work something out? Brenda's talking crazy. She thinks if we win this case, we can. She wants to put you in a nursing home. I never agreed to that. But you signed the papers, didn't you? Silence. Victor, you could have stopped this at any point. You could have told your wife that your father deserved respect. Instead, you went along with her scheme because you thought it would get your money back. I know I messed up, but maybe we could. I'm protecting myself, Victor. Something I should have done 3 years ago when you stopped being my son and started being her accomplice. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Nancy Coleman presided, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and zero patience for stupidity. Brenda sat with their lawyer, looking confident in her best dress, probably bought with my money. Victor looked sick, like he wanted to be anywhere else. Counselor, the judge addressed their lawyer. Present your evidence of mental incapacity. The lawyer stood nervously. Your Honor, we have documentation from Dr. Beverly Thompson indicating that Mr. Lawson suffered cognitive impairment from his concussion, resulting in irrational financial decisions. Stanley interrupted, standing smoothly. Your Honor, before we proceed, Mr. Lawson, have you ever met Dr. Beverly Thompson? No, sir. Never heard of her before this case. Have you ever been contacted by Dr. Thompson for evaluation? Never. Not a phone call, not a letter, nothing. Stanley turned to the judge with a slight smile. Your Honor, the petitioners have submitted a psychological evaluation of a man the psychologist has never examined, never spoken to, never even seen. This isn't just medically fraudulent, it's potentially criminal. The judge's expression darkened like a storm cloud. She looked at their lawyer with the kind of stare that could melt steel. Is this accurate? Counselor, your doctor evaluated him based on hearsay. Well, Your Honor, Dr. Thompson is a personal friend of Mrs. Lawson's. She was trying to help the family. That's not how medical evaluations work. Counselor, do you have any legitimate evidence of cognitive impairment? Silence. Victor stared at his hands. Brenda's jaw was clenched tight enough to crack teeth. Stanley submitted our 3 legitimate medical reports. The judge reviewed them carefully, taking her time with each page. When she looked up, her expression was decidedly unfavorable toward the other table. Mr. Lawson, she said, looking at me directly, can you tell the court why your family believes you're incompetent? I stood slowly, my ribs still aching, but my mind crystal clear. Your Honor, I recently changed my estate plan. My son was previously the primary beneficiary. I altered it to leave most of my assets to charity, with a trust for my granddaughter. They're unhappy about this decision. And why did you make this change? Because when I was hospitalized after my accident, they refused to help with my recovery. They chose vacation over family. I decided my assets should go to people and organizations that actually value relationships over money. The judge looked at Victor and Brenda. Mr. Lawson, did you refuse to help your injured father? Victor stood slowly, looking like a man walking to his execution. We had vacation plans, Your Honor. We couldn't cancel. You couldn't cancel a vacation to help your injured father. It was already paid for. The judge's voice caught a frozen hell over. So you chose money over your father's well-being, and now you're claiming he's incompetent because he chose to protect his assets from you. Brenda jumped up, ignoring her lawyer's restraining hand. Your Honor, this isn't about money. My father-in-law is making irrational decisions that hurt his family, ma'am. I interrupted, my voice carrying across the quiet courtroom. Over 3 years, I gave them $216,000 in monthly payments, plus a $680,000 house, plus a $45,000 vehicle. When I needed help recovering from broken ribs and a concussion, they told me their vacation was more important. How is protecting myself from that irrational? Stanley then played the recorded phone call. Brenda's drunk voice filled the courtroom, slurring about putting me in a nursing home, liquidating my assets, how I owed them. You could hear a pin drop. Victor's face went white as paper. The judge held up her hand. Everyone sit down. We sat. She reviewed the documents one more time, then looked up with the expression of someone who'd just smelled something rotten. This petition is denied. Mr. Lawson is clearly competent and has every right to manage his assets as he sees fit. Furthermore, I'm ordering the petitioners to reimburse Mr. Lawson's legal costs, minus $12,000 payable within 60 days. She leaned forward, fixing Brenda with a stare. Ma'am, you're fortunate I'm not referring this matter to the district attorney for filing fraudulent documents with the court. Consider this your only warning. The gavel came down like thunder, case dismissed. In the parking lot, my phone started buzzing before Wed even reached Stanley's car, Brenda calling over and over. The voicemails that followed were a progression from barely controlled anger to complete unhinged fury. This isn't over, Henry. You think you can destroy your family and walk away? You're going to regret this. All of it. You vindictive old bastard. I saved copies of everything. Documentation. You never know when you might need evidence of harassment. And Brenda seemed determined to provide plenty. 2 months later, they'd sold the house to pay their debts. Victor called one afternoon, his voice hollow and defeated. Dad, Brenda filed for divorce last week. She took Carol, got temporary custody. Says she didn't sign up for poverty. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. She's right. She signed up for your money, not for me. We met at a coffee shop in Scottsdale the next day. Victor looked like he'd aged 10 years, thinner, exhausted, wearing a wrinkled shirt that had seen better days. The expensive suits were gone, sold probably. I'm moving into a 2-bedroom apartment, he said quietly. After paying off everything, I've got about $485,000 left. Enough for a modest place and some savings. Actual savings this time, not just money flowing in from Dad. And Carol, his face crumpled slightly. I'm fighting for joint custody. I want to be part of my daughter's life, even if I completely screwed up being part of yours. I studied my son. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something harder to define. Humility, maybe, or just exhaustion. I understand if you never forgive me, he continued. But I needed you to know you were right about everything. We used you. I used you. Chose comfort over character, money over family. I lost myself somewhere along the way, let Brenda convince me that we deserved your support just for existing. Why tell me this now? Because I want Carol to have a grandfather who knows her father finally understands what he did wrong. And because he paused, swallowed hard, because I remembered something yesterday. When I was 16, I wrecked your truck backing into a pole. I was terrified you'd be furious. Instead, you hugged me and said trucks were replaceable, sons weren't. When did I forget that lesson? I sipped my coffee thinking about the man across from me. Not the entitled boy who'd stood silent while his wife dismissed my injuries, but the son Eid raised to understand right from wrong. I'm not changing the will, I said finally. Not yet. You need to prove this change is real, not just temporary desperation, I understand. But it'll help with Carol's expenses directly. Education fund, things like that. Not through you or Brenda, directly for her benefit. Victor's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just be a better father to her than you were a son to me. That was 6 months ago. Victor bought his modest apartment, threw himself into work, got promoted to senior adjuster. Brenda's living with her mother in Tempe, working part-time at a nail salon, bitter about how her perfect life unraveled. She married Victor for the lifestyle I provided. When that disappeared, so did she. Last weekend, Victor brought Carol over to help with the Chevy. We worked together in my garage, his hands remembering skills Eid taught him decades ago. Carol asked questions about engine timing, handed us the right tools without being asked. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. The pickup runs perfect now. 350 volley 8 purring like a contented cat. I stand in my garage listening to that engine and think about justice. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's letting them see exactly what they threw away and making sure they understand they'll never get it back on the old terms. Brenda chose vacation over family, comfort over compassion. Victor chose weakness over loyalty. They drew the line, showed me where I stood in their priorities. Fine. I drew my own line, one that protected my dignity and secured my granddaughter's future. My neighbor Pete stopped by yesterday, helped me adjust the carburetor. You know, Henry, he said, that whole court thing took guts. A lot of folks would have just rolled over, kept writing checks to keep the peace. Peace built on disrespect isn't peace, I told him. It's just postponed conflict. Family loyalty has to be earned through respect, not demanded through manipulation. At 67, I finally learned the difference between generosity and being used. Victor's learning too, slowly but surely. Whether he truly changes or just learned better manipulation remains to be seen. But either way, I'm done being anyone's ATM. Done sacrificing my self-respect for people who don't value it. Done confusing financial support with family love. And you know what? That lesson was worth every penny it cost me. The real tragedy isn't losing money to family. It's discovering that's all you ever were to them in the first place. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give your children isn't your wealth, but the lesson that respect and love can't be bought, they have to be earned through character.